Diddly doodly tastic. Fan. Heidi deedly doodly peedly tastic. You bunch of scamps, you. Guess I oughta mod up some of my peeps. Let's get Phoebes on the track. They swat your main channel. They did. They did. Yeah, they it was a very suspicious one too. I think it was like the day after, maybe a couple of days after we had covered the matinee. I don't know if it was him. See, that's the thing. Like, it very well could be him. It very well could be just YouTube being stupid. Like, who knows? I just think it's so funny, like the lack of care that they have. Like I've been doing my ideology channel for, I don't even know, 14 years. And I said as much, and I did the whole, submitted it for review when I got the hate speech strike, which is, I mean, that to me, that one gets my goat, because you can say what you want about me. I really don't feel like I engage in anything that would ever even approach hate speech. I can't think of a single position that I would take, or even really joke that I would make, that would be construed as hate speech. Yeah. He's always had that though, Phoebes. That's his thing. Is like he always, like, we used to call it back in the DP days and before, Brett's little island of misfit toys. He always garners a couple of real dumb people, and I got to be honest with you. Let's say that there's 10, I think there's probably less than 10, but let's say that there's 10 of them. I would say that of those 10, 5 of them are people that are probably just gaslighting or trying to like gas up the manatee, you know what I mean? Like, but what are you gonna do? What can you do? What could you possibly do? And he's got his little misfit toys, but yeah, no, I saw the strike on it. It was for a video from almost 2 years ago, just a normal ideology, me sitting on the porch. And I've, feathered my way through it, looking for like, what could they possibly not like? And it was just a totally like normal stream. I didn't even get salty or loud in it. It was a cone of shame stream. It was after Dinor had gotten an ear infection or something, and he had to wear the cone for a few days. And I was just like, well, so I typed to them. I was like, I've been doing YouTube for 14 years on this channel. I've never once uttered hate speech on the channel, and there's no hate speech in the video that was flagged. Please remove this false strike. And it was like a joke. So the video, of course, it's a porch stream, so it was a couple hours, I think, long. And 5 minutes after I did the request to review, I got the email saying, like, denied. It's hate speech. I was just like, fuck this. Whatever. Like, nobody looked at it. There was no, like, you can just tell that was automated. There was no human being that ran across that. And if there was absolutely there wasn't even time for them to pull up my video and scan through it. So there you go. The way it stands now is ideology is pretty much locked down. I can do nothing but upload videos to it, and even that I think is restricted. It's demonetized, and I won't be able to stream on it until April, like mid-April. I think it's April 14th or something when the strike falls off. So I was just like, whatever. That's what this one is for, you know. That's what the poltergeist is for. It's unfortunate a lot of people aren't going to find their way over, but what are you going to do? What can you do? It's just garbage. Like, I don't even really get mad anymore when shit like this happens. I've been desensitized to being improperly censored by the company that I work for, over and over and over and over again, for no reason, no discernible reason. Yeah, guilty until proven innocent, indeed. That's just the way it works out, isn't it? Stage 4 corporate cancer. Yep. Could probably make a post on the main ideology channel. Yeah, I think that's happening today. I think we're going to do like a community post on the DFF channel and just let people know, like, hey. Even Bungie had trouble getting YouTube's attention. I never expected any attention. I don't need attention. Like, I'd rather they not pay attention to me, you know, in the first place, and not lay stupid strikes. So the reason that I'm shut down from streaming is not because of the hate speech strike. It's because I had a previous strike for medical misinformation. This is, you can't make this shit up. That was still in effect when the hate speech strike came. So I was already sitting under the gun for another one that I appealed, and 5 minutes later, it's like, you know, poof. So it's just garbage. Like, I don't know. There's a few of you in here that have been watching me for a very long time. Do I spout medical misinformation or hate speech? Is that a part of what I do? You know? Medical misinformation, bro. So, whatever. I'm over it now, as you can tell. As I'm sitting here bitching and whining and moaning and crying about it, I'm over it. Wonder if it was your Dart Squad jokes. I mean, that wasn't a medical recommendation or anything. I don't know. The Dart Squad. Yeah, maybe that was the medical misinformation one. I honestly don't know. I couldn't tell you. Couldn't tell you.
What did that dove do to you, D?
Well, you gotta chase a pigeon, or a dove, or whatever that was. Leave that dove alone. You're just pecking. Have you done DFF longer than DP now at this point? I think it's close. Maybe.
Yeah, it was 5 years. It was in January, so.
Yeah, I would say so then, yeah. Well, you are clearly anti-vax. I remember your 2-hour stream about how the measles vaccine gives you the tism. Oh, yeah. I forgot about that one. Yeah, the backup channel works just fine for now. Guess we'll see how long that lasts. of all the garbage that gets uploaded to YouTube that's actually in flagrant violation of their rules, a fat stoner sitting on his back porch and rambling about politics is what they're fucking policing, you know?
Yeah.
Sitting in front of, 50, 60, 70 people whining about politics while smoking a half a pack of cigarettes. That's the we got to get that off of this platform for sure. But I think I've just come to the realization that, like, YouTube is not what people think it is. YouTube is not a place where anybody and everybody can start up a channel and has a good chance, has at least an opportunity to make something of their own out of it. Like, YouTube doesn't want to be that anymore. YouTube is slowly but surely morphing into a Netflix type of thing, where certain big name producers, those are the ones that are producing like the Netflix originals for YouTube, and everything else is pretty much like they want to push it to the margins or off the margins, and I'm definitely one of those for sure.
Yeah, it's like now even 1 million subs isn't even something that they care about. You gotta have at least 10 million for them to care about you.
Dude, there's so much crazy shit going on too. It's like, I was watching a Kyle Kalinske video the other day. He was covering a video by, what's his fucking name? Another one of these lefty news guys. I can't remember.
Hassan?
No, it wasn't Hassan. He's older than that. He's been around about as long as Kyle has. I just can't remember his fucking name. But anyway, he has over 1 million. He's like 1.6 million subscribers. And he puts up videos that routinely get like 2,000 views. And it's just like, David Pakman, yeah, that's who it was. Yeah, it was David Pakman. And he was just talking about how, like, yeah, some of our videos do okay, but he's like, there's a huge chunk of our videos that struggle to break 2,000-3,000 views on like 1.6 million subscribers. To me, that's just like, your shit's not getting in front of the people that subscribe to you. Because even if out of that 1.6 million, let's say 0.6 of that million is people, legacy subscribers that they don't check their shit anymore or whatever, you're still theoretically getting your shit in front of 1 million people. And only 2,000 of them are even bothering to click on it. It's like, I really think that YouTube does not want to host political content that's outside of the mainstream. Like, they want to host ABC and big news organizations, and maybe a couple of favored, type of independent news organizations and stuff. But
like TYT or something.
Having your average person sit down and talk about the news and talk about politics, they don't want that shit. It's like a scattershot approach. It's like, how do we take care of white nationalism on the platform? How do we, one way to do it is to heavily, to really look at people's stuff and find the people that have Nazi ideology and escort them to the door. But the quick way to do it is to just go like, this person talking politics? Yeah. Are they on the list of approved politicers? Nope. Strike. And that seems to be how it goes now, from what I can tell.
You know what YouTube loves is the content farms. You ever read about those?
Oh yeah, the places that are just putting out like these huge anonymous videos that are made by a team of people in India or whatever.
Yeah, that are just like cut together over and over again, like this cake decorating. This is...
Yeah, if this channel was about cooking or snowboarding or just any like pastime thing, I'd be doing it there. I wouldn't have any strikes. It's the fact that, and I don't really think that my channel is inherently a political channel, because a lot of times we talk about those very same things. Like, it's pretty rare in my recollection, maybe I'm wrong about this, that I do a stream that's just entirely politically focused. It happens. Definitely have more politicky moments and maybe some streaks of politics here and there, but a lot of times we're just sitting around like talking about video games or some shit. talking
There
about
was
movies.
one cooking channel I'm subscribed to that got a strike for calling out other cooking channels.
It's like, whatever. Just do makeup throughout the ideology. Yeah, that's probably a good idea, honestly. Just like brand myself as a makeup channel and have the content visually look like I'm doing makeup, but then just talk all my crazy shit.
Yeah, like there was this one channel that was like a cake decorating one, but it was telling like super fucked up stories throughout the whole thing. But it had millions of views and no strikes, even though they were being super fucked up.
I don't. It's just so inconsistent. There doesn't seem to be any kind of trackable metric by which you can judge your own shit.
Yeah.
Like we're kind of going through that now with on DFF we're trying to we stream on the main channel and then those come down and patrons get a link and then we put up little clips on another channel that we're trying to get monetized. And we're, going through the trouble of like editing out all the cuss words and all the stuff. And still shit just gets automatically demonetized when we upload it. And some of it we review and they go, oh yeah, you can have monetization. And some of it they don't. And some of it that sneaks through, like we did that jump ass segment. I don't know if you guys mentioned or remember that, where we just kind of like played coy about looking at female long jumpers' asses and tried to pretend we were commentating on the long jump. And I remember after that show, TJ said, he was like, yeah, I'm going to chop these up. He was like, I don't think jump ass is going to be usable. I was like, well, you never know. And it's
it was the only one that day that he uploaded that was cool.
He uploaded like 12 clips or something, and one of them was jump ass, and jump ass was just like full green monetization, go for it. And everything else was like, nah, nope, demonetized. It's like, what? Okay. Maybe we just need to do more jump ass. If you ever need a new editor, hit me up. I could use a side hustle. Sure, yeah. I mean, I don't know how you'd reach me. I'm trying to think.
I mean, Twitter's probably the best, even though you don't check it a lot.
I don't check it ever.
Yeah.
That's the problem. Is like maybe once every 6 months or something, or 3 or 4 months at the most, I will go to Twitter to look at something else and notice that I have a bunch of things and I'll scroll through.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you what I really need an editor for is Cinema for Cynics. Because I'm too neurotic to be an editor. I'm decent at it, like I know how to do it, but I am so prone to getting caught in this loop of like re-editing or focusing way too hard on some stupid little aspect of it and getting caught up in a 2, 3, 4 hour time loop where I just get nothing done. I feel like I work better. Like there are a few projects where I worked with TJ, and I don't think we do them all that often anymore because I don't think they're all that fun for TJ. But I felt like that having somebody that was an editor and being able to just provide input on the fly and go like, hey, we should do this, or hey, let's try this, or blah, 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 blah. I felt like I worked well in that capacity. But editing shit myself, I'm just too neurotic about it. Too much neurosis, not enough talent.
I guess maybe my Twitter would be a good place to send shit to you.
I don't know. I'll have to come up with something. I'll have to figure something out. I guess Twitter would probably be. I hate going there.
Yeah.
Maybe I should just unfollow everybody so that I don't get. But see, the problem is that my Twitter's like the things that it recommends based on the things that I've been subscribed to. So I'm gonna get a bunch of crap in it. Yeah. It's just like the reason I stopped doing Twitter was not even really like the interactions with people that are often hostile and shit. I was just inundated with political content. and like, I'm on a kick right now where when it comes to like political day to day, like, and when I say political, I don't necessarily mean like the type of stuff I talk about. I mean like mainstream news. Here's what the Dems are doing. Here's what the Repubs are doing. Blah 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 shit. Man, I just fucking garbage in, garbage out on that shit. I'm not interested. I don't care to see it. I don't care to watch it. I don't care about it. Like, I feel like my general mental health has been better for not following. And this has happened to me a bunch of times in my life, by the way. You know, way back in the day when I was married to my first wife, I had a literal nervous breakdown. And a lot of it was because I got into this cycle of news. I was working at Starbucks, and so I had access to three. I think we had the New York Times, obviously. We had the local paper, and we had the San Francisco Chronicle every day. And I would steal one of each of those, and I would read one of them on my lunch break. I would go through, the New York Times or the local paper on my lunch break, and then I would bring the other two home, and I would read them cover to cover as soon as I got home, and then I would spend my time watching the news of the day, like, because newspapers are always 8 to 10 12 hours behind, so it's like, okay, let's see what happened actually today. And before you know it, I had basically spent my whole day making coffee and reading politics, and I just went fucking crazy. And then it happened to me again later in my life, working at the school district, and I started doing the same thing. I got a subscription to the New York Times and had it start getting delivered to our house. And that sounds like such an innocuous thing, but for me, it was like kicking the window open to that shit again. And I was arguing with my friends on message boards about politics, and reading politics, and then watching The Daily Show, and then watching this and watching that, and watching Fox and MSNBC and CNN, and like trying to catch all the different perspectives and make my mind up about every little political happening in the world. And I just fucking fell off the cliff again. And I feel like I maybe didn't have like I don't know, maybe I did. Maybe I did have another nervous breakdown with it, but it's just like my mind is drawn to that type of shit. Like, intellectually, I want to be a political entity, but it's not good for me. I'm too invested, I guess. I can't see it.
You can't passively consume it.
Yeah. I can't be aloof while consuming it. I can't like look at it as a piece of information. I look at it, I think I put way too much importance on
it. You're a very empathetic person.
Yeah. I mean, I think to a fault, honestly.
I can open up an email for you.
An email?
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess I could.
Yeah, you can just fucking slap a new email together and like just talk to Paul via this.
Yeah. I probably ought to have something. But right now I'm not really worried about it.
Your P.O. box, if you want to go even further, snail mail only.
Yeah, write me a letter, bitches. I want to step away too, but there's terrible anti-union protest legislation passing in the UK, and bad union strikes. I feel like I have to keep in the loop. I mean, yeah, I'm not trying to file a prescription on what you should do. I'm talking about like my own mental health, which I got to be honest with you, maybe this is selfish. It's more important than what's going on in the world to me, because I have to live in it and around it and through it every single fucking day. So I got to look out for number one,
I think there is a little bit of a difference if you're like focused on one specific topic versus just consuming everything.
See, but that's the problem is
Yeah.
like focusing on one topic and starting to get into it more is a gateway to
The other shit.
now I'm living on Twitter and reading
Yeah.
every little political article I run across and blah 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 blah. It just gets out of control. I don't think I can moderately consume it. Or at least I haven't figured out a way to do it. Well, I guess now I'm doing it.
Yeah, you check out the canoes maybe once a day and just scroll through the headlines.
Yeah, I take a look at the top, third of the canoes every day, and I look at the headlines. And if there's an article that I like, I'll take a look at it. But I try and make sure that I pick articles that aren't just politics shit. And then twice a week I'm doing a show that's got a pretty heavy news segment to it, and I feel like that's enough for me. There are certain like topics that I don't really consider political in the way that I'm talking about now. Like, it's thinking and talking about and arguing about labor issues and class issues. That to me is more substantive than here's what this Republican senator just tried to do, or here's, to me, that's all part of the circus. And it really is, dude. That's one of the things. Like, I'm not saying don't keep yourself informed. I'm just saying be aware of where this information is being generated, by whom, and be aware of the source. These corporate news media places, like, I think they want people spun out like I am. I think they want people to just be weary with it all.
And addicted.
Yep.
Yeah, like with information glut, it's like you can't care about any one thing too much.
Yeah.
I'm really the only news hound that you listen to.
What?
I'm really the only news hound that you listen to.
Yeah.
I'll show you things here and there.
Yeah, you get my political conversation time for sure.
Yeah. That little fucking melting robot, man.
That was terrifying. Amelia says, "Oh, do you know that they?" Because we were talking about futurism last night, among other things.
Yeah, like that deep fake thing with Pokemon and shit.
Yeah. Well, that set off a conversation about how we're really entering a time where it's like we're not going to be able to know what is real. Mm-hmm. They've created AIs that focus on every aspect of human intuition and how to subvert it. So, like, they can create your voice out of thin air now. They can make you sound like anybody else. They're getting better and better at seamlessly making you look like anything else. They can create an entire place that looks photorealistic that doesn't exist. They can create entire people out of thin air and have them be voiced and controlled by non-people. We're rapidly approaching a really spooky time, I think, in human history. Maybe it's always spooky, but this upcoming, I really don't know what to think. There's so heavy, there's such a heavy implication with it, because it's like you can't really I mean, we're already, in my opinion, living in a time, and have been for maybe a couple of decades, where you really can't trust your eyes and ears. Not completely. And that's part of what makes this scary, is like every media organization, every political establishment in the world has taken advantage of technology prior to the current technology, like deceptive editing, context mining and quote mining, mine quoting. They've been doing it, and so we know that they're going to use these new tools, creating, like, making people say things they never said, creating witnesses to things that don't exist, you know, and I hate to kind of sound Alex Jones-ish on that, but I think that a lot of those people, not to defend Alex Jones, but a lot of the people that were maybe worried a little bit about what the news was presenting them and whether it was real were just maybe 15 years before the curve. Because as soon as they can do it and reliably get away with it, you know they're going to be doing it. And what does that mean? How do you even know what's really going on at that point? It's like there's no personal accountability anymore, and there's no way for, you know, it's very spooky. There's no telling when we start to see a totally bullshit AI witness. I mean, yeah, it could be AI like, you just have no idea.
We've already broken down a lot of those barriers, or like people were calling in via Zoom into court.
Mm-hmm. That's what Phoebe was just saying. All this shit's online now, and so, yeah, here's a witness that saw you do it and is willing to testify to it, and that person just doesn't exist. Or in the kind of like, here's something that this political entity overseas said, and they didn't say it. And then there's going to be people that use it cynically and go like, to try and cover up stupid shit that they've been caught saying. Oh, that wasn't me, that was a deep fake. Mm-hmm. And then you enter this post-truth environment where it's just like some people are lying about it being deep fakes to save face. Some of them are telling the truth. And there's really no possible way to discern who's who. And so you enter an environment where literally everything that you hear and see could be designed to fool you into thinking that it's real when it's just a narrative device. Spooky.
Got more AI writing articles on these news sites. Like BuzzFeed laid off a bunch of people so that they were going to replace a lot of the article generation with AI.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not like BuzzFeed's the most stellar source, but they put out actual news stories sometimes.
Sure.
Yeah.
It's, you know, I really don't think that most of the mainstream media outlets can be trusted already. And they are just now coming into this nascent technology of creating people and creating voices and making things happen that didn't happen. And there's no way that they're not going to fall off the deep end and do it.
And
they've used every opportunity, like every piece of technology that's come around. As editing has gotten easier, and as watchdogging the media has gotten less and less, when the fairness doctrine collapsed, which I think was really, like, that's, you want to talk about when the media went off the fucking rails and became a corporate mouthpiece. It was right there.
Another thing too is they're not checking the facts. They want to be the first one to post it, so they'll put shit out.
They have to be the first one to post it, because you're going to read a news story about what happened. You're not going to go read 15 news stories saying the same information. Mm-hmm. So if they want your eyeballs and they want your attention and they want your ad time, they got to be first. Yeah. And what does that mean? They got to rush. And it's only a matter of time. Maybe it's already starting to happen, where they go like, what if we can make the news? Mm-hmm. Like, what if we can be the first ones to report on it because we made it happen? Mm-hmm. Tee-hee. It may sound far-fetched to some of you, but to me, I don't think there's anything that's going to stop these organizations from doing that.
Well, I mean, they've already kind of been doing that. Like, there's so many news articles that are just about a Twitter discourse.
Right.
And you have no idea who those people in the discourse are, who's being genuine and who's
they love Twitter. They love Twitter because they've managed to elevate it in the national psyche as like, well, this is what people think. And it really isn't. Twitter is this tiny little microcosm of political people and weird, hobbyists and shit. It is not representative of the population.
Well, a great example is like that Hogwarts Legacy is like being a bestseller right now before it's even out. despite the whole like campaign on Twitter to boycott it.
Right.
That's how meaningless that Twitter boycott campaign was.
If you were to use Twitter as a barometer for what people are talking about, how people think, what the trends are, then you would think that Hogwarts Legacy was literally just about to be one of the biggest failures in video game history. But the truth of the matter is that it's outselling every game that's come out in the last 2-3 years already, and it's not even out yet. So that should give you an idea of, you know,
how disconnected it is.
And then Twitter is even worse too, because it artificially collapses the narrative. Like, it's like you go to Twitter and you interact with people and follow people who are like-minded or people who you oppose, and you are just fed more of that.
Mm-hmm.
You don't see the shit that exists outside of that. You're just fed more, oh, this is like what you liked, you know, last week.
Or this is like what you were pissed off by last week.
Right. You spent fucking 3 hours of your life arguing about this last week, so here's a bunch more of that. And it's just like, it's feeding every negative impulse in the human brain and segmenting people into these tiny little pockets. It's like creating these little tempests in a teapot, where like this huge group of people believes that the whole world is arguing about J.K. Rowling when nobody, like, literally nobody cares. Nobody.
Yeah, I think the vast majority of people purchasing it doesn't think of it any more than just, ooh, I liked Harry Potter, and here's a cool looking game in the Harry Potter universe. I'm gonna get it.
Yeah.
That's all the thought process that went into it.
Yep. And, you know, to kind of tie this to what we were talking about just before, I believe that Twitter is an environment where what I'm talking about is already happening.
Mm-hmm.
There are already bots that are portraying themselves as, I'm a mother from Wisconsin or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And here's what I think. They're driving these narratives and controlling and shaping them to keep people invested in them. So there's even less reality than it appears as a segmented, you know, out of context little bubble of people. Yeah. So it's like, fuck.
There's other news stories that will use TikTok as a primary source or Reddit as a primary source.
Yep. I can guarantee you that if you were able to see you know, like if you were God and you could see the truth of everything, that you would find probably hundreds and hundreds of news stories over the last 5, 6, 7 years that were based on a Twitter discourse that was instigated and propagated mostly by bots and written as a news story by a bot. So it's news being created and then covered as if it's news. I can guarantee you'd find hundreds and upon hundreds upon hundreds upon hundreds. Just nothing. Just non-news being presented as reality. And that's going to get bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger.
Yeah, it's like if all these sites are using TikTok as a primary source, you can put up a deepfake on TikTok.
Oh, yeah. You know, like, think about this. What does social media love? These, like, little breakout stars that do something wacky, and they're just, you know, they're just a kid, 15-year-old kid from Wisconsin or something, and all of a sudden they're a big social media star overnight. Like, how long is it going to be before those just start getting made?
Yeah, well, it's already happening on Instagram. They've made AI models that, you know, can't get into any drama because they're not real.
This is all part of that, the reason why I feel like, for me personally, and for probably a lot of people, being heavily politically focused and letting the national news media drive that, and not just the national news media, but the two-party system, letting the parties drive what it is that you're consuming as information, is just, it's like a rat maze. I really start feeling like a lab rat when I think about it. It's like they're playing with your emotions, they're playing with your psychology in order to figure out, like, how do I get this dude or this person more invested? How do I get this person more like to spend more time sitting in front of the ads that they're flipping through. And I don't think that's psychologically healthy. And I think that you know, some of it, myself being one of those, are really like adverse to it. It has a real adverse effect.
And that chat GPT thing, like people were asking it and acted like the answer that it generated was like some truth when it's just pulled together from all these other sources.
Yeah. No, it's crazy. I mean, like, if you really think about the way that technology is going, there's a lot of stuff that in a vacuum, I think it's, in fact, I think it's all cool. But if you look at it in aggregate, deep fake technology, the ability to fake a person's voice, the ability to, like, one of the things I like to say, and this is true, this has been true for, I think, a decade now, car commercials aren't real. When you watch a Dodge Ram commercial or a Cadillac Escalade commercial or whatever the fuck, you're not actually looking at the car. You are looking at a composite car that's made to be perfect, so they don't have to spend all this time wiping it down, so they don't miss a water spot.
There isn't some stitch out of place.
The lighting is perfect. The sun reflects off it just how they want to. That, when I learned that, it blew my fucking mind. That's when I really started thinking about this. I was just like, what? And I went and watched videos. You can watch videos about it. They set up this cart that has the same wheelbase as the car, and they cover it in reference points. And then they do the same for the backgrounds that the cars are driving in front of. So the place isn't real and the car isn't real. It's like, extrapolate that out just a little bit. Like, take that seed of a thought and you know, put your spin on it. Yeah, it's gotten to the point now where, you know, they're very close to not even having to go out and shoot physical film of these things. They just make them. Like, here's the exact specifications of the car, feed it into a really, it's crazy, you know. And they're now we're on the cusp. So I was talking to Amelia about this last night. It's like the stuff that we have access to, that we know about, Chat GPT, this voice AI software that can make you sound like a bunch of people, deep fakes. You take all of these crazy nascent tech and AI being able to react in a human way. You take all of these things, which in a vacuum, they all, oh, that's cool. Oh, that's cool. You put all those together, and what do you got? Fake people giving fake testimony or making fake statements or doing things that never happened or saying things they never said, all at the whims of people whose desire is not to inform you, but to keep you looking at their website or their Twitter page or their, you know, whatever, to keep you locked into the program. So I love this. Whenever I start talking about these things, I always like to make note of how many people are watching.
Yeah.
When I started, there were like 88 people, and now there's 71. People just, I think it really does, like, some people are just like, oh man, yeah, I can't. I don't blame you. By the way.
Uncomfortable truth.
No, it really is. It's one of those things I don't even really like thinking about it. I do, but I can get spun up on it pretty bad, because it really does. There's so many unknowns just on the fucking horizon, or happening now, and it's doubling down, tripling down, quadrupling down, quintupling down. You know, it's just growing exponentially. Yeah. You know, I don't know. It's a doomer topic. I guess so, yeah. I feel like capitalism is to blame for the misuse of all this technology. It's kind of a weird question, honestly. It's like capitalism is to blame for the existence of this technology. It was all funded by capitalistic enterprise, so I guess in a technical sense, yes.
I feel like every kind of government structure has a desire to misinform and distract.
Oh, of course. Of absolutely, yeah. And that, well, and not only that, but they've shown that they will do it rampantly. I mean, you know how much just outright false flag propaganda it just in my lifetime that the powers that be have fed, if you really think about it. You know, just before my lifetime, they set off the Vietnam War with a completely fake incident, the Gulf of Tonkin incident. They've since just admitted, like, oh, yeah, it was kind of like a wartime PR thing. But that's the event that solidified Americans behind the idea of sending American troops to Vietnam. And it was completely made up. The Bay of Pigs is another example of this. Tons of South American and Central American political insurrections were just completely and utterly driven. Same thing in the Middle East. The United States has been almost entirely responsible for the way that Iran has politically changed over the last 40, 50 years. They've just been dick deep in Iran's politics, shaping it, deposing leaders, putting puppet leaders in place.
Yeah, with Libya, I wouldn't be surprised if there were some CIA plants that were starting to foment the whole spring or Arab Spring thing.
Oh yeah, it's like that's another arm of this, is the ability for these people to not only now create things out of thin air, but to go and just make things happen. You know, to make something look like an organic uprising when really it's just a bunch of CIA propaganda. It's a bunch of intelligence agencies arming and radicalizing and staging insurrections.
Yeah, and at a certain point, people were like, "Oh well, this looks like what everyone cares about, so I'll hop in too."
Yeah, well, I mean, that's because I think that a lot of people just inherently trust the sources of their information.
Mm-hmm.
If not directly, if not like they're like I was. I never really trusted like Fox News or any one outlet, but I trusted my ability to read those stories in a bunch of outlets and come to some sort of consensus on what was true, or at least get close to it. And now I don't. Now I don't trust that at all. And I will trust it less as time goes on and as these technologies develop and become possible. Why is it that people can acknowledge the obvious veil of political theater but at the same time be wrapped up in the same divisive adversity? Because it's an ego thing. It's like, here's what's going on, but I have the overview. I know which things to care about and which not to care about. It's like not really wanting to cede the argument that I'm making, that you can't really trust anything that you hear or see anymore, and as time goes on, less and less. It's wanting to say, well, yeah, that may be true, but I'm not one of the sheep. I know how to see through the veil of trickery, and you don't. Nobody, you can't. That's the point. You know, you don't have a brain trust of tens of thousands of employees constantly tweaking a technology to make it more and more likely to be accepted by you. You know, you don't have that. You just got yourself and a bunch of voices of other people that you don't know whether you can trust or not. Well, is there a way to put some dough in your jar? No, don't worry about it.
Oh, is that this channel not super chat?
No, it's not monetized at all. I never used it enough to get. It's always just been a landing place for a couple of months.
Yeah. And you can join the Patreon.
If you want to throw some dough my way, $7 gets you full access to the DFF Patreon. You get, even if you're just a ideology dude, you get patron exclusive ideologies. Usually they're pretty fucking good. So yeah, you want to throw me some dough? Throw me some dough like that. But yeah, as far as super chats and shit, don't worry about it. Those are nice. I'm not saying I don't appreciate them, but it's not why I do these. Oh, you're already apart? Well, there you go. Waiting for the Vegas meetup. Yeah. I think if Amelia and I make another trip to Vegas, we're going to do it very differently because I actually have looked into it, and I think we could have had a better time with just a little more knowledge of how Vegas works now. There are resort hotels on the Strip and shit that have a way more stringent policy of no kids and have way better, just like better, like apparently I didn't know this, but after we stayed there a couple of days after looking into it, I learned that like the Luxor, which is where we stayed in Vegas, is one of the worst hotels on the Strip. It's like one of the oldest. And there's been rumors, like if you look up the Luxor and look at like local Vegas newspapers, it's always like, the Luxor is probably going to get torn down. We've heard through the grapevine that they're going to tear it down and build a whole new thing on it. It's just like a kind of a shitty it's kind of a shitty fucking casino. But I didn't know that because the last time I was in Vegas, the Luxor was fine. I've been in that casino a bunch of times actually. But yeah, we definitely ended up staying at like a hotel that's one of the things that I think drags it down, is that Luxor is set up like a family resort. Not like, here's a cool place for adults to go be adults.
I think we put like a total of like maybe $10 in a machine the whole time we were there.
Yeah, I mean, I've never been a big gambler. That's normal for me, but yeah, I really didn't really even want to put in the money that I put in. Like, the best money spent on that vacation was sitting around at the bar and getting tipsy. Need to go to Vegas before I change my name back to my maiden name so it can be Vegas in Vegas. Oh yeah, dude. Yep. Vegas does Vegas. That could be construed multiple ways, I think.
And we just wanted a bad time of year too. Thanksgiving's not the most happening.
See, I thought it was going to be cool because I thought, I don't know. I've been to casinos at various different, usually like it can be busy and stuff there, but they got a lot of shit going on. It's bustling and fun and stuff, and it really wasn't. It was like every family with 2.5 kids in the entire United States all decided to descend on Vegas at the same time. And there were like 9 weddings happening a day. It's just like middle of wedding season, which whatever, but it's just like, where's the grown-up stuff?
I'll tell you who loved that trip though. It's Cricket.
Cricket loves any trip. Cricket is super happy being in a hotel room and getting all the nooks and crannies of it. He loves it. He loves it. He was fine with it. He don't care where we go. You sound like Ace Rothstein at the end of Casino. Yeah, we had the world by the balls, but we fucked all that up. It's a mourning dove, yeah. Mourning doves are an indigenous species in the area that we are, so they're pretty easy to spot.
Still waiting on that yellow rump warbler though.
Yeah, the yellow butt I want
I
to
guess
see
they're
that.
called butter butts too.
Butter butts. Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Little pat of butter on their butt.
Dude, I was enthralled by that little yellow butt.
Yeah.
It's like a dark gray bird with a little yellow dot right on the butt. Gotta see it, man. I gotta see another one. So, how many episodes of Breaking Bad are we?
We're at like episode 8 of 16 in season 5.
So we're like halfway through season 5.
Yeah.
I want to finish it up because I want to. I don't know if I'll do like a whole make a big thing about it, but I definitely want to try and have like a long conversation about that show. So I've got a lot to say about it. And I think that like at this point, I'm half a season away from the show being over. I've got a pretty good grasp of the characters and the themes. I don't think anybody's going to go through any profound changes.
Mm-hmm.
I think everybody kind of is who they are, and I have some strong feelings about the show. I think that it's I did my best to not have it suffer from like heightened expectation due to how hyped it was, but a little of that seeped in. And I think that it made it harder for the show to cast its spell on me because I was a little more critical than maybe I would have been had I just discovered it on my own or whatever. But I have a lot to say about the show. Do you think that Tony's family also got whacked at the end of Sopranos? Dude, Amelia and I were talking about that just the other day. That's something you never hear anybody talk about. It's like you have a hitman. He's not wearing a mask. He just pulls his hoodie up and goes out there, and Tony's lights go out, and that's the end. Dude, those types of hits and shit, they're not going to leave a bunch of witnesses sitting around the table, and they don't want Tony's family like rising back up against whoever did the hit. And so there's a good chance that Tony's whole family got blown away.
Yeah, the worst enemy you can create is someone out for revenge.
It's like the Godfather 2.
Yeah.
When it goes back in time to show Vito Corleone as a little boy, the movie opens on a funeral for Vito's brother, and another one of Vito's brothers gets shot at the funeral as they're walking the coffin, and Vito's mother takes him by the hand and takes him to Don. I don't remember what his name was. I don't think it's Don Fanucci. That's the white hand. I can't remember, or the black hand. I can't remember the name of the guy, but she takes him to that Don, and she says, "Look, Vito's not like my other sons. He's a simple boy. He's quiet. He's sensitive. He's not going to come back looking for revenge." You know, she makes her whole plea to the guy, and he just kind of like looks at her for a second and then goes, "No." And it's just, they kill her. Vito has to run away, barely escapes. That's, you know, that's the type of vendetta that we're talking about. And the reason he was like that, he was like, there's no way. He's like, as a boy now, yeah, maybe he doesn't mean me any harm, but as a man, you can't, you know. And he ends up being correct. Vito ends up going and killing that guy. And so, you know, that's one of the things that nobody ever talks about. It's always, did Tony die? And it's like, to me, the answer to that is clearly yes. But nobody ever cares about, did his whole family die? Because they didn't, you know, even if they didn't, think he ruined that family. The whole, like, even if the dude just blew Tony's head off and then ran out of the fucking place, he left 2 children and a wife sitting in the brains and viscera of their loved one. Like, you never recover from some shit like that. And you've created a huge desire for Anthony Jr. or Meadow or both of them to try and solidify support and go against you. You know what I mean? It's really very low chance that they survived that encounter. And so, pretty crazy. But there's definitely a lot of Sopranos overtones in Breaking Bad for sure. A lot of similarity thematically, I think, maybe not narratively, but thematically, there's a lot of parallels. I don't think Meadow or AJ had it in them. Yeah, I don't think Vito had it in him. He's a quiet boy. He's a simple, quiet, sensitive boy. I don't think he had it in him. That's how you end up gutted like a fish on your front porch at 80 years old.
Well, it's like with the Big Gus thing in Breaking Bad. He held his contempt for decades until he was ready to strike.
Yeah. Paul is banned from the universe. Yeah. Demonetized by God.
That's what they mean by revenge is a dish best served cold.
Right. Because the longer you wait for it, the sweeter it is when you get it, and the less expected it is.
Yeah.
I watch Sopranos theories all the time. You're the first I heard bring up the family being killed theory. Yeah, I mean, it's one of the things I don't think I've heard people talk about it a whole lot either. I don't know that I came up with it on my own, but
it's like an uncomfortable, like, realization, I think, because you fall in love with these characters.
Well, people just don't want Tony to be dead.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of people, a lot of theorists out there that are making excuses for why that Tony isn't dead.
Yeah.
Because they loved his character so much. But if you really sink in with it, that what we're seeing is, and see, like, to me, it's obvious. In that final season, if you remember, he's sitting with Bobby Bacala on a boat, and Bobby Bacala has just committed his first murder for Tony. And they're sitting on the boat and they're talking about it, and Bobby straight out says to Tony, and I'm paraphrasing, he's like, I wonder what it's like. I wonder if, what if everything just goes black? All of a sudden, one second you're there, and then the next second you never were, or something like that. And that's exactly what happens to Tony at the end of the show.
It's been confirmed by the show creator.
Yeah.
It's like, I mean, you can believe whatever you want. You can make your own fiction. That's what makes you happier.
I mean, I think that it's definitely open to interpretation, and it's fun to talk about. But for me, there's not really much of a debate on what happened at the end of it. And, definitely one of the most controversial endings to a TV show. Literally had people getting up and hitting their TV, thinking their TV broke because they linger on that blackness for an uncomfortable 30 seconds or something. Yeah. But that's the whole point,
It's supposed to slowly dawn on you, like, this is the end.
Yeah, that's it. Tony lucked out for most of the show, and it's finally caught up with him.
As scary as, like, the idea of just black is, I feel like it's the most tolerable to me out of all the other after-death theories.
I mean, it's not even, it's honestly not even black.
Yeah.
Because, black, it still implies this idea that you're there.
Yeah.
You're not, you know what I mean? So it's the ultimate black. It's, it's hard for the human mind, I think, to comprehend non-existence.
Yeah. Absolutely zero sensation, zero consciousness, just...
Yep.
But I'd rather have that than fucking eternity and whatever afterlife.
Oh yeah, for sure. It's definitely way preferable. It's like before you were born, right? That's a tough one for people, though, because most people can't remember being an infant.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't really have a this is where I began timeline in the first place. So it makes it kind of hard, I think, to whatever. But yeah, I think one of the standout things about Breaking Bad for me is just how inherently unlikable the entire main cast is. Your main characters, Walt, Jesse, Skyler, if you look at those as like the core of the show, two of the three of them, I can't even stand them as people. They literally make me angry. Walt and Skylar, they deserve each other. They're just awful people, just hypocrites, hypocrites, hypocrites. Jesse's a sensitive hypocrite, you know, like he at least has a little spark of normal humanity in him, but not much.
He's an insecure hypocrite, I think is the best way to put it.
Yeah.
He gets drawn into hypocrisy because he doesn't have a strong enough sense of self to.
Right. He's a follower. But yeah, I think that I really don't understand why people memed Walter White so much. He gets to say and do some badass things, but like as a character, he is so unlikable, and so in contrast with Tony Soprano. And honestly, they're probably, like, when it comes to mayhem and murder and shit, they're probably pretty equal on that. But it's the way that they process and justify it that makes Walt unlikable and makes Tony, you know, everybody, like, that's the thing about it, is he does horrible things. He's a mass murderer, you know, like a total sociopath, but he's like a little kid. He's got like a very childlike nature, and it makes him endearing. He's got a smile that just, you know, it melts your heart looking at him, and you just want what's best for him, despite the fact that he's always fucking it up for himself, and he's fucking everybody else up.
And he does things impulsively too. Like Walt, I feel like, is very calculating. Each murder is deliberate.
For sure.
Way.
Yeah. Yeah, he's a schemer.
Yeah.
But he's a total, he like lies to everybody about the reasons for why he's doing what he's doing.
And lies to himself too.
Right. He keeps saying family, 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 but he doesn't give a fucking rip about his family. If he actually cared about his family, he would listen to what Skylar's saying and be like, "You're putting your family in danger doing this." He would never have done it in the first place. He doesn't give a shit. He'd care less about his fucking family.
Would have walked away like a year ago if he cared about his family.
Yeah. And then Skylar, like this whole last season so far, I mean, maybe she'll show a little humanity by the end of it, but like she has just been like doing the whole silent treatment thing. There's so much of that in this show, and it triggers me. Sometimes it's really effective. Like Mike was the master of that. Mm-hmm. What did Saul say? What did he say when you told him that? And he's like, nothing. He just gave me the dead fish eyes. You know, that's a pretty good descriptor of Mike. Yeah. But there's so many, like, somebody will say something or ask somebody a question directly, and the other person just like, you know. And Skylar's been doing that this whole fucking season, sitting there pouring up giant tumblers of wine and pretending she's not listening to anybody. And it's just like, having been on the receiving end multiple directions in my life of the silent treatment, it's so triggering watching her. I just want to reach through the screen and be like, just fucking say something or do something, please. Yeah, you know, people have told me since I started watching this that you know, Skylar was a really disliked character, and I can see why. Credit to the actress, because, you know, it's a magnetic dislike, but it's still, she's just like, and Walt is, to me, he's just as bad, if not worse. He's just driven by some like Scarface fantasy, but he's already like a worse person than Scarface was. Mm-hmm. Like Scarface he was fine with killing somebody or whatever if they needed killing, but he had a set of fucking morals. No kids. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? You remember towards the end of Scarface, the cartel sends him to help out a cartel assassin blow up the car of a political opponent, and Tony kills the assassin because he wants to blow up the car when the guy's wife and kids are in it. And he's like, no wives, no kids, you piece of shit, blah, blah, blah. Ends up blowing the assassin's head off for that. So there's like a seed of morality. It's warped, twisted morality at the core of Scarface. But he has a creed. And, you know, like I said, it may be wrong-headed, it may be self-serving, but you can at least respect that the character, despite all their flaws and transgressions, has a creed that they're driven by. Walt doesn't.
I think the only reason he saved Hank was because of the leverage that
Yeah,
it had.
of course. Like to him, that's one of the things that like I'm assuming at some point Hank makes the connection. It would be really like a blue ball if Hank just remains completely oblivious to Walt's involvement. So I'm assuming in this last hat, don't tell me by the way, you spoil it, I'll fucking kick your ass. But the guy Tony kills is the same guy who played. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, Don Hector. There's a lot of Scarface people in Breaking Bad. The Don
That
Gus kills is Manny Manolo from Scarface. There's another one too. I can't remember who it was, but Snape kills Dumbledore. You son of a bitch! You blew it for me. That was some of the funniest shit I ever saw. I remember the people trolling, like all the people waiting at 3 a.m. in front of the Barnes and Nobles that driving by. Snape kills Dumbledore, and everybody's just like, no! I love that. I love it.
I like spoiling myself in some respects.
I usually don't care, but if I do care, I'm pretty good at avoiding it.
Yeah. Like when the last Harry Potter book came out, I immediately flipped to the last page to see if Harry was alive at the end or not.
I've known people like that. They cannot stand to not know how it ends. They just got to dispel all the tension, and then they're fine watching it. That's fine.
Like with those Harry Dresden books that you got me, it's like obvious that he has to live at the end because there's more books coming.
Right. Right. For sure. Yeah, makes sense. But yeah, just a very, very unlikable group of characters. And the people in the show that I find likable are dropping off like flies. Darth Vader is Luke's father. Spoiled.
That came out in, what, the 70s?
Mm-hmm. Spoiled. Spoiled Infinity War for a ton of people, and it made my one friend mad as hell. Oh yeah, dude, people get real pissed at you. They'll get fighting mad if you spoil things. Fighting mad. Is DFF breaking up? Huh? Say what, Sonny? Oh, everything's fine. We're still doing it. John Goodman steps down as King in King Ralph. Oh, you bastard. Mario beats Bowser. Oh no. No. Spoiler alert, DFF is not breaking up. Jesus dies in the end. Oh no. Kidding me. Alright, that's enough ironic spoilers. You guys are driving it into the ground. We get it. No, there are people that'll get mad, and there are people that think you ought to like adhere to like spoiler restrictions on content that's like years old, and I'm just like, fuck off with that shit. I've like, look, I don't know, when did Breaking Bad come out?
2008.
Yeah, I've managed to remain pretty much spoiler free on Breaking Bad since 2008. If you really care about it, you can turn off the thing that's spoiling stuff.
Yeah.
Like, going into Breaking Bad, I knew the name Heisenberg from the memes. I knew the name of some of the characters, like Walter White. I'd heard that bandied about. I knew he was going to cook meth. that was basically it. That's basically all I knew about the show. So it's on you to stay spoiler free. If you really care, you won't be spoiled. OMD.
He's got the little almond eyes just bright enough for him to not be full bug-eyed right now.
Yep. Not quite squinty. Not quite squinty. Spoiler alert, TJ won't finish Twin Peaks. I know. I fully expect TJ to either pretend he did and just give like a real dismissal. I don't like it. It sucked. Yeah. Or like to just never finish it.
Yeah. I mean, after the first week and he hadn't finished an episode, it was clear from there. It was clear.
I still like. I think the last time I talked to him, he said he finished the first episode, and I was like, "Wow, great for you. You got through one episode." It's fine, whatever. I didn't really like it. If I was predicating watching Breaking Bad really on TJ following through with watching Twin Peaks, I would never have done it.
Because you know TJ.
Yeah. Yellow butt. He's got no intention of watching it, I know. With TJ, there's a good chance that he hasn't even actually watched the first episode. That might just be a way for TJ to like say, "Oh yeah, I started it."
Give it the gold college try.
Yeah, because he wasn't able to tell me anything about it.
Yeah.
Like when I started asking him, like, "What did you think about this?" Then, "Oh yeah, I don't know. I don't remember their names." Okay.
I don't even think TJ does it intentionally. That's just the kind of person he is.
Yep. I don't think he likes having to watch something. I'm the same way. I can't really fault him, but that was kind of the whole point. TJ might watch a summary, maybe. It's fine. I'll be glad to have put Breaking Bad behind me. I'm ready for it to finish. I'm ready for it to... It's been a fun ride, but I'm ready to jump off for a while.
I don't know. I feel like the best TV shows, if they're any more than 5 seasons, they fall apart.
I mean, I don't know. I think that maybe some shows could transcend that, but it really has to be a really great show.
Yeah.
To justify spending that much time with those characters.
Like, I can't even imagine people that, like, want to start, like, Law and Order from the beginning at this point. It's, what, like, 30 seasons or some shit at this point?
Yeah.
It's absurd.
In your old review format, would you rate it as a watch it or don't watch it? I mean, watch it for sure. It's good. You know, it's got its like little oh shit moments and it's fun little digressions and stuff, and it's well acted and well written and well conceived for the most part.
Well shot for sure.
Yeah. But just, you know, be prepared.
Would you say age the show the most? Like, what moment is like, that's not gonna age well?
Aged. I mean, a lot of their cell phones and shit are very...
And they're close enough to, like, where, you know, you get the basics.
I guess.
People still call and text and have voicemail.
Yeah. I guess so.
That dubstep, that to me was like, that aged it pretty bad.
Yeah, the dubstep soundtrack beats or a little bit.
They only did it a little bit, but it was enough.
A little too much Skrillex.
Yeah.
But there's definitely some. It's got its problems for sure, and it can be really hard to watch because it's unique in that you're really just seeing the show from the eyes of the villain, not an anti-hero, not a villain that you root for, just a total like what a piece of shit. Walter just becomes more and more of a piece of shit as the show goes on, more of a hypocrite, more like, and it just has so much more disregard for everybody else around him, self-destructive and destructive to his family. There's just like it's hard to find the positives. Yeah, I'll eventually check out Better Call Saul because I like the character. But once I finish this, I'm taking a break, taking a breaking break. Jesse wearing metal militia. Yeah, I like Jesse's character the most of the main characters. He's the most semi-relatable. Yeah, he's a sympathetic character, even though he's stupid and self-destructive. There's a little bit of humanity in there somewhere. He at least tries to do the right thing sometimes, but yeah.
Our little pet theory we came up with is that the meth chemical started melting their brains at some point.
Yeah, it almost feels like that. It really does feel that way. Somewhere around like season 3, it really starts to feel like Walt and Jesse both get real stupid. Like, just start acting really stupid. So maybe it is. Maybe their masks aren't sealed properly or whatever. Yeah, I know. El Camino and Better Call Saul. I'll watch them eventually, but like I said, I'm taking a Breaking Bad break after this. I feel like I've spent enough time in that orbit.
Gotta get out of New Mexico.
Yep. Come here. The best boy. The goodest of the good boys.
Literally everyone loves Dinor.
Yep, it's true.
My dad is not a pet person, and he even caved to the Dinor.
Dinor, he will not be not loved. If you don't like him, he's on you like glue until you can't stand to let him be on you anymore.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. And you eye boogies. Oh, he's got eye boogies. Big old bulgy eyes. How could you hate Dinor? I don't know. I wouldn't want to meet a character. I think Walter White would hate Dinor. And I think Skylar White would hate Dinor. Just people I don't want to know. People I just don't want to know. I want to know what kind of broken person could not love you, Dinor. You're too cute. Too cute. Too sweet. Walter would sell Dinor to the cartel for a nickel. Yeah, he'd shoot him. He'd end up shooting him for no reason. Dino spilled a meth bucket or something, he'd be like, "You fucker, boom." Are you making fun of Walter White with that, or Walter Jr.? What's for breakfast, Dad? Yeah, that is pretty. He does say that a lot, doesn't he? I kind of feel bad for the Walter White character, the Walt Jr. character, because I feel like he doesn't really get to establish much about himself. He's just kind of like one of the victims of Walt's indiscretion.
I feel like in the last season we've honestly seen more of the baby than Walt Jr.
Yeah, the baby's, I think, a bigger character than Walt Jr. in this season. It's just really sad. It just shows you how much both of the parents were kind of really disregard him. Poor kid. He's just there. Yeah. Yeah, that is true. And he knows it too. That's the thing about his character. He's just he's always catching people shit talking him. He goes to stay with Marie and Hank for his safety or whatever, and they're shit talking him, and he hears it. Just like, oh, poor Walt Jr.
I mean, he gave it his best. The actor did.
Yeah, it's just not a very well written character.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel. It feels like he should have been more consequential than he is, but you know, I think Anthony Jr. was still obviously a side character, but was really more well established and had some plot lines that were centered around him and managed to be relevant in the story.
I mean, poor Walt Jr. hasn't even gotten a girlfriend this whole time.
I mean, he doesn't even really have any friends. Like, we get to see him with a couple of friends, I think, early on, but he doesn't have anything going on in his life. He just kind of like goes to school and then comes home, and his mom's sitting there not talking to anybody, drinking a bottle of wine, and his dad's being a fucking manic weirdo. And now they're just like fobbing them off on family. You know, he's just like, go live with your aunt for an unspecified amount of time, and we're not even going to tell you why. It's just like, get out of here, you disabled burden. I feel like his personality is with disability. Yeah, kind of. But that doesn't even really come into play a whole lot. Like, he'll use it, I guess, sometimes. Like when he's talking to Hank or whatever, he's like, you know, all right, what, should I still be in a hospital? When Hank doesn't want to come out of the hospital because he can't walk yet. Like, it'll come up every once in a while, but I feel like it's just disregarded most of the time.
Yeah, it's just like, this is why Walt seeks out a son figure, because son is disabled.
He's just not willing to invest in his son having a disability as he does. I was always anticipating a Walt Jr. self-deletion when I was watching Breaking Bad. See, that's never even crossed my mind, because that would require him to have, I think in order for them to pull that off and have it work, he would have to be like a developed character, and he isn't. Like, we don't really know anything about him. He's got quirks that just seem like they were put in there to add a little bit of flavor. Like, he just alternately wants to be called Flynn instead of Walt Jr. And I guess maybe that's just like, we're supposed to read into that he's mad at his dad or whatever, but I mean, like, what else? What else is going on?
He likes loud music.
Yeah, he listens to bad 2010s hip-hop and rock music. He likes driving around a fast car. I'm trying to think, like, what are some of the...
We don't even know how he's doing in school.
Yeah, I mean, him being in school, that never comes up. So, I guess he likes watching movies, because we'll oftentimes find him just kind of like lazing around on the couch, channel flipping.
He doesn't even like video games, man.
He's not, if he does, he's not into them. I think he mentions something about it, but he's just a really undeveloped character. Like, even though he's in a lot of scenes, you don't really know much about what he's like personally, because he's either kind of obliviously happy or whiny and put off. Like, you know, that's a very, like, I guess a teenager would be. But
Like with AJ, you know, he had girlfriends, he had interests.
there were whole episodes where it was like, you know,
Yeah.
one of the main plot threads was some, you know, AJ fucked up at school or
Yeah.
AJ's doing this. And you really, you know, you got a real glimpse of him as a character, what he was into, what kind of friends he had, how he was doing in school.
What his kind of emotional conflicts were.
Right. And with Walt Jr., it's really hard to, it almost, I almost feel like he's a throwaway character.
Mhm.
I think the only reason he's there is to provide this juxtaposition where Walt is trying to, like, de facto adopt Pinkman as his son, and in doing so he just kind of ignores his real son. But that's also in The Sopranos. Like, Tony does basically the same thing. He kind of, like, ignores a lot of Anthony Jr.'s needs and focuses his fatherly stuff on Christopher, but you still get a good idea of who Anthony is, you know. And yeah, I don't mean to reiterate it, but the most triggering thing to me right now is anytime there's a scene with fucking uh, Skylar in it, I'm just like, oh, here we go again. And I know it's going to be her just awkwardly not answering people. Like, I really started to hate her even more when she's finally, like, properly introduced to Jesse Pinkman, and they have him over for dinner, and she just treat like he's trying to be, like, nice and get, you know, do the whole getting to know you thing, and she just ignores him. I was just like, oh my god, this is so uncomfortable. He's trying to make, like, little conversation, you know, he's trying to be a nice guy. He knows it's an awkward situation, but he's trying to make the best of it, and she just treats him like a total dog turd sitting there.
And he's like trying to compliment her, like, these are great green beans. She's like, they're from the store. It's like, well, you did good shopping.
Yeah. That's the only thing she really says to him.
Yeah.
He's trying to compliment her green beans, and she's like, no, they're from Kroger, the deli aisle. And then she just sits there and, like, in response to questions or statements, just pours more wine in her glass and starts chugging it. It's just like, oh my god, get her out of here.
We don't even really see her being terribly motherly either.
No. She's another one that doesn't, like, she masks what's, like, this whole, like, I don't want you to be around the kids thing. That may be true, but it's not the core issue. The core issue is I want to be in control again.
Yeah.
I want to be the one that tells you what you can buy and make sure that you stay going to work, and I want to be the head of the household again.
Yeah.
And now that you've asserted yourself and made it clear that I'm not that anymore, I've got to find some other surreptitious reason to have conflict with you because I can't admit that that's what it is.
Yeah.
And so it's, oh, the kids are in danger. She doesn't give a shit about no kids being in danger. She's gone right along with this shit at every step.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if she cared about the kids being in danger, it's the same thing with Carmela. Carmela has, like I said, there's a lot of parallels. Carmela,
her come to Jesus moment was the therapist.
Yeah, late in the show or midway through the show or whatever, Carmela goes to a therapist who basically, like, gives her tough love, and he's like, your hands are covered in blood. You're exposing your children to the possibility of being murdered every fucking day that you stay with this guy. He's a sociopath. He's a criminal. If you care one iota about your children, you'll get them the fuck out of there. You'll do whatever you have to do. And she decides to stay because Tony's willing to give her money. It's the same thing with Skylar. Skylar, before she even knew that Walt was involved in anything illegal, was helping her boss cook the books. So she's clearly, you know, got a very tenuous moral compass, but she tries to hold herself up like she's not a criminal too. Mm-hmm. You know, her contention is that Walt's in control of all this when she at any point, like, she's literally got a brother-in-law that's in the DEA. How much easier could it be? If she really hates Walt and wants to protect her family, go to your brother, get immunity, Say that you did the fucking, you know, money laundering under duress, and Walt's a fucking crazy drug dealer named Heisenberg.
Mm-hmm.
He's killed people, and he's, you know, involved in the drug trade. It's all she'd have to do if she really cared about her family and its well-being. But she doesn't. It's not about that. So both of them are launching this. It's for the family. Everything I've done for this family. It's just like everything you've done has endangered your family, Walt. And then Skylar throws the same thing back. Oh, I want the kids out of here. She did that because she knew it would piss him off. She doesn't care if the kids are safe or not. At least it's not the primary reason why she did it. She did it because she wanted to piss off Walt. It was a way for her to assert control in the relationship.
I mean, especially as the mother, it's so easy for her to get like full custody if she wanted.
Yeah, I mean, there's like this patina of worry on her that
Yeah.
if she goes to the cops or whatever, that she's going to go to jail too. I don't think that's necessarily it.
It's not even that. It's like, it's more like, I don't want the shame.
Yeah, yeah. It's just like, what? Oh, okay. And like, she's super hyper judgmental of her sister Marie's kleptomania. You know what I mean? She just treats her like she's a total pariah when she finds out she's stealing things. But she's literally a cog in a murder for hire scheme. You know what I mean? Like, it's just, she's such a hypocrite and so unwilling to be real. And I feel the same way about Walt. And they're just unlikable, terrible people. Yes, Marie is way more likable because despite Marie's flaws, she has, like I said, she has a moral code. She has a creed that you can tell that she lives by. Cares about her family. You know, she's a bit of a gossip and a big mouth, and she's well-intentioned, but it may not always come off that way. But ultimately, she's a redeemable human being. She's a likable person. Same thing with Hank. You know, Hank is an asshole a lot. He just, you know, beats the shit out of Jesse Pinkman when clearly that's not the right thing to do. He treats Marie like shit when he's recovering because he's all busted up and can't talk about it. But ultimately, you can tell he's driven by a sense of right and wrong. That is it, you know, if it's, is it flawed? Yes. Is it respectable because he sticks by it? Yes. Then you've got Walter and Skylar just and Jesse just floating in this self-righteous area of like, I'm a good guy, but so it's one of the things about the show that's tedious to me, honestly. It's really hard sometimes to stay invested when you don't like anybody in the show. It's really by virtue of a lot of the little side characters and stuff that I think I still enjoy the show as much as I do.
Yeah, you love Saul.
Yeah, Saul is great. I love Badger and Skinny Pete.
Yeah.
I think they're great. Like, I love that little moment where we find out Skinny Pete can play piano like a god, you know. I just like, you know, they're fun little side characters. I loved Gus as a character, even though I really feel like, from what people have told me, that Gus's story gets fleshed out in Better Call Saul. There was a lot about Gus's story that I feel like was intentionally left on the table, and so you don't. But he was really like, you felt like, by what you did get to see, the few little flashbacks of him before he was a big drug lord, or at least there was only one really. You get to see that he's not necessarily just driven by this desire to be Scarface. He's got other motivations in this. I don't think Carmela and Skylar fit this, but some people come from a background where a snitch is the absolute worst thing you can be. No, well, Carmela definitely fits that. Carmela is she's part of a mob family. I mean, there's few subcultures that you could say that are more anti-snitching than mob adjacent people. So sure, but ultimately she knows, you know what I mean? Like, if she really cared about the safety of her family, she'd get them as far away from Tony as possible. She'd go into the fucking witness protection program, and she would turn state's evidence to keep herself out of jail and to keep her kids with a fighting chance. But she doesn't do it because she cares more about the jewels and the money and the big house and the nice car and, you know, the basically infinite pool of money to pull things, you know, have little side gigs on and all this shit. Like, she cares more about that. And Skylar's the same way. Skylar, like, I think what's keeping her from doing it is the idea that there's not a way that she can wrangle control of all this money. She doesn't want to admit that. And so she's staying in this limbo position, trying to see if she can break Walt by doing the silent treatment long enough to where he's just like, all right, well, let me let you run the business then. That's what would make her happy. Like, Skylar, I can't do this alone anymore. I need you to handle all this. And she'd probably resist it at first just to make a show of it, but she'd be happy to do it. But she's not going to get that. Like, part of what the transformation that the character of Walt White goes through in the show is he's basically kind of cucked. You know, not to use that term incorrectly, but at the beginning of the show, she's in control of the finances. They make that very clear. He can't, like, I remember there's that scene where, did you buy something for $22 at Walgreens the other day or some shit? You know, it's like one of those things where it's just like, oh my God, fuck off, you know? And she's very much in control. She decides, you know, what the family does and how the family lives and how everybody's money is spent. And she's off in La La Land pursuing some art career, you know, at the beginning of the show, and loving taking Walt's paycheck and spending it how she feels like it needs to be spent. And she wants that. She wants the money, and she wants control over it. And she's only going to be able to have, like, she could have the benefits of the money, but she can't have control over it. She's not going to tell Walt what to do or how to do it. You know, she gets interested in it again when he says, like, help me launder the money. She thinks that by running the car wash, she's going to have a say in what he does. He's going to bring her to the table and really put her in a position of power over decision making. And she's just a stooge for him. You know, he just uses her as a loyal worker or whatever to hide his criminal doings. She's not in charge. So I think that's a little difference between Skylar and Carmela. Carmela is really just kind of nakedly about I just want the good life. I want to be able to go.
Yeah, she's materialistic.
Yeah. I want to be able to go to Italy with my friends whenever I want. I want to live in a big, giant, absurd mansion.
I want to be able to get $20,000 rings and shit.
Skylar, I think she wants the money, but I think it's secondary. To her, it's more, I want the control.
Yeah, she's not a terribly materialistic person.
No. I want to be the one that's wearing the pants in the family, and Walt's not having that no more. Just makes it interesting. But it just makes her a very hard character to stomach. But yeah, the side characters pretty much uniformly. I really can't think of any that I didn't like. I loved Gail Bedeker's character. I thought he was an interesting, like, it's a good example of, I feel like I know more about Gail Bedeker as a person than I do about Walt Jr.
Yeah.
Even though Gail Bedeker is, you know, he's only around for a couple of shows before he's offed. I feel like I know, like, I have more insight into what kind of a person Gail was than Walt Jr., who's in almost every episode. So that's a big criticism for sure. Yeah, Gail really got the short end of the stick. I mean, look, at the end of the day, he knew what he was involved in, and so you can't really lay all the blame on somebody else's feet. He was, he's involved in the drug trade. He knows that there are dangerous people doing dangerous things, and he didn't really make any efforts to protect himself. Mike, I love Mike. I think Mike is great. Once again, he's a dude. Like, as Walt says, I'm doing all this for my family, I feel like it really holds up for Mike. Mike has this singular focus on his granddaughter having a nest egg so that she, and he justifies all the horrible things that he does by focusing on that one driving moral creed. And it's completely, it's horrible, and it's wrong, but he has a respectable commitment to it. So I think Mike's character is great. I love all the little recurring small parts in the show. I love Saul's bodyguard Huel, even though he basically has like one line or two lines. I just love him. He's such a presence. I love Saul as a character. I even liked, like Ted Beneke as a side character. As just a person that's caught up in this whirlwind that he doesn't really understand.
Like, he was definitely doing the tax fraud. I think I believe him when he said that he wanted to save his business, ultimately.
Yeah.
He might have had a couple materialistic, drives, but ultimately it was like, let's save the business.
Yeah. I loved Don Hector, that character. That's just such a fun character. Never really gets to speak except for in a flashback in one episode. I liked Victor as a character before he got offed, as just kind of like a quiet, normal-looking guy that you probably wouldn't look twice at on the street, but really sold this idea that he's a pretty hardened thug. You know, I thought he was good. I mean, I really don't have anything but nice things to say. I loved Jesse Pinkman's girlfriend and her father, the one that died of the overdose, or really was killed by Walt not intervening. I thought they were great side characters. Once again, a couple more characters that I feel like I can infer more about than Walt Jr. Yeah, I think the nothing against the actor or whatever. I don't think it's his fault, but I just think that character was kind of a throwaway. Wish my weather was that beautiful right now. About to get another week of rain and mud. I mean, we're on the back end. Up until like last week or maybe the week before, it started raining like a week before Christmas and rained constantly. Basically, the entire back half of December and all of January up until this point, it was pretty much just rain.
Well, speaking of, it's supposed to definitely rain tomorrow.
There you go. Take solace in the fact that my weather will be shitty tomorrow. I'm getting some shitty weather too. Oh, day.
Oh, you getting a little chilly willy.
You cold. Bet it hasn't even put a dent in the reservoirs. It actually has. There's actually it's been crazy. A lot of the reservoirs are filled or on track. Like there's so much snowpack this year. So much snow up in the Sierras that when that starts to melt in the spring, the reservoirs that aren't filled are going to be over capacity. They're going to, like, it's going to be the first time in a long time in this area that a lot of riverbeds are anything but dry. So it's going to be, it's a windfall of water. But the problem is that California needs about 6 straight years of this in order to kind of reset the groundwater table and all of that shit, and we're not going to get it. Yep. I live not that far from a big reservoir and a dam, and they're talking about how they're going to open the spillways, and it's at capacity or approaching, and that's before the snow melt. So there's a lot of water right now, but it's going to be gone by this time next year, unless we get lucky and get multiple years of this atmospheric river shit to reset the clock. Otherwise, we're pretty boned. Pretty boned. Pretty out of it. Anyway, I think I'm gonna call it a show. Thanks for joining me. See you guys next time.